I don't know. I'm experimenting with a hat this video. Experimenting with it.
What's up?
Nah. Hey everyone, James here, and welcome back to yet again another episode of I Just Watched.
Now, I know most of the time on I Just Watched, I've covered movies like Cruella and The Great Mouse Detective.
However, today, I have something a little bit different that I want to talk about, and that is the brand new show at Disney's Animal Kingdom at Walt Disney World in Florida, Finding Nemo, The Big Blue and Beyond.
Ever since Disney's acquisition of Pixar back in 2006, the Disney parks have endlessly tried experimenting with different ways of bringing Pixar properties into their theme parks. Some of these things have manifested themselves into new lands, such as Toy Story Land at Disney's Hollywood Studios, or attractions like the new Ratatouille ride at Epcot.
However, one such experiment that I found especially fascinating was the idea of musicalizing Pixar movies into these big, lavish, Broadway-style stage shows.
Now, they've only ever done this twice, and it just so happens that their first outing, Finding Nemo the Musical in 2007, is the topic of discussion here today. Though, for those curious, the second time Disney did this was actually a year later in 2008, on the Disney Cruise Line with Toy Story the Musical.
Now, if you want to know more about Toy Story the Musical, I highly recommend you go and check out Disney Dan's sort of riff and sort of discussion about the show on his channel, which I've linked in the description below. But as a quick addendum to his video, when Toy Story the Musical premiered, a couple years later, Disney had the pretty broad idea of bringing the cruise ship show over to Disney's California Adventure, which would have meant the permanent closure of the very popular, and in my opinion, very good, Disney's Aladdin: A Musical Spectacular at the Hyperion Theater. And when word got out that that was what they were going to be doing, fans pretty much universally revolted at the idea. And it was so massive that Disney basically had to turtle back into their shell and say, we're sorry, we're keeping Aladdin where it is, please don't hurt us.
Now, getting back on topic, Finding Nemo the Musical was a 40-minute abridged retelling of the 2003 movie of the same name, with music by the songwriting duo of Bobby Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez, back in their pre-Frozen days.
Now, Finding Nemo the Musical combined beautiful, gorgeous puppets with projection mapping and acrobatics, and really I'm doing it a disservice. Let's just let Disney explain it.
The show's a really great, imaginative retelling of the film story, but it's set in a whole new undersea magical environment. We're going to create the characters through the use of puppetry, animated backdrops, special effects, flying, and all kinds of dance and acrobatics. I think guests are really going to have fun watching this show. It's packed with emotion, heart, humor, and great visual effects that will transform it in a way that I think that they have never seen Nemo before.
And guests did indeed enjoy it, as Finding Nemo the Musical played for about 13 years before being quietly canned amidst the COVID-19 pandemic.
However, much like Aladdin: A Musical Spectacular before it, when fans found out that Disney was choosing to shelf Finding Nemo the Musical, fans understandably spoke out and revolted on social media yet again. And it worked. Sort of. Now, Disney didn't just say that they were bringing back Finding Nemo the Musical. Oh, no. That would have been too simple. No. Disney said that they were bringing back Finding Nemo the Musical, but it would be reimagined.
Reimagined with a plethora of changes, including cutting the runtime in a little less than half. That's right, folks, this is an abridgment of an abridgment. And to help aid the missing scenes, Disney said that the Tank Gang, led by Gil, would now be the new storytellers, telling guests the tale at the Marine Life Institute from Finding Dory on their release day.
All of this is to say that I am honestly very intrigued by how they're going to do this and if it's even going to work. Can they really pull off an abridgment of an abridgment without anything feeling forced or rushed, and will it still have the same heart that both the movie and the original show managed to hold? Is this a case of Disney actually managing to plus one of their attractions? Or is Finding Nemo the Big Blue and Beyond a shell of its older self?
Sam watches the ships that go sailing.
Alright, so I just got done watching Finding Nemo, The Big Blue and Beyond. What did I think of it? Now, this might be unpopular to say, but I actually think it's a little better than its predecessor. Now, don't get me wrong, I do think in a absolutely perfect world, had the pandemic never happened, had the parks never closed, had the decision to close the show in the first place never have been made, I think we would have gotten the same show that we've always had, but with these new enhancements. And ultimately, yes, I do think that is what most people would have preferred. But considering, as I said in the opening, we were already looking at this show to be an abridgment of an abridgment, and I kind of walked into it with the expectations that it was gonna show, honestly, it really doesn't. I know, I myself am very much surprised. The cuts that they did make, I honestly predicted they would make, and I do think they are things worth cutting. They are worthy cuts. Walking into this show, I kind of already expected the prologue scene with Coral to be cut, and lo and behold, it was. Now, could you make the argument that that should have been left in because it provides that strong emotional connection between father and son, and also explains why Marlin is afraid of the ocean and doesn't want Nemo to explore? Yes. An argument can certainly be made in that direction. And with how the current show works, could this just be fixed by having the Tank Gang kind of give that exposition? Yes. But I'm also kind of glad that they didn't do that they resisted that urge. Another cut that I was honestly kind of happy to see gone, and again, that might be a complete, unpopular opinion, was the whole jellyfish scene. Now, don't get me wrong, the jellyfish puppets were gorgeous. In fact, I'm glad that at least the little squishy one made it into the opening. But I'm sorry, I never for a second liked the acrobatics in this show. They looked clunky, it really didn't work. I don't know if the jellyfish themselves are too big, or if they can't really do the quick motions with the wires without it being some sort of a safety issue. It never looked right to me. So I understand why they made that cut, and honestly, I think it is a worthy cut. I also think it's a worthy cut just because I don't really like the song Just Keep Swimming. That's probably, in my opinion, in the original version, its weakest number. Arguably the most substantial cut, in my opinion, is the ending, or the final sort of confrontation with the boat. Now, for those of you who have seen the movie, Marlin has to let Nemo go in order to save Dory and the other fish from the fishing boat in the Sydney harbor. This is a scene where you kind of get a bit of each different song. Dory's singing Just Keep Swimming, they're singing Swim Together, We Swim Together, and then you get that really powerful moment when both of the actors for Nemo and Marlin let go of their puppets to an ensemble member, and they just sort of face the audience and they say, "That's my dad, that's my son." That's just not here anymore, and I'm very conflicted on it. That's Marlin's big scene. That's the scene where he completes his hero's journey. Without it, it does kind of feel like Marlin gets Nemo back without having to give something up, if that makes any sense. And I think that number in total could have been less than 5 minutes, so I don't know why they didn't just make the show 30 minutes, cut 10 minutes from the show and make it just a 30-minute show. Again, I don't run the park, I don't do management, I don't know if that would have even have been a possibility. But if they are going to do another revision of this show, that is something I would definitely want to see them look into. But enough about what they cut. How about just the overall look of the show, which is something that Disney very much advertised in all of their promotional videos, that yes, it is going to retain the look of the original show, but just a lot brighter and more colorful. And mission successful. No kidding. This show is gorgeous. The newer projections that they do and the LED screen in the back, I think really works well to complement both the puppets themselves as well as the actors' costumes with the puppets much better than they ever did before. The original version of the show, again, this might be unpopular, I think it kind of looked a bit muddy at times. And the projection screen in the back, I never thought was that great. I never thought people kind of could see that, like, in, for example, the first scene with the tank gang in the original version, I don't know if anybody could actually see Darla in the back because it wasn't that bright, but you definitely notice her in this version. Disney said, of course, in the advertising that they were kind of going for a sort of, cardboard cutout sort of, construction paper style look with everything. And boy, again, this show is just gorgeous. The sets are beautifully designed. Everything just looks like it belongs. Again, I don't know how many different ways I can say this. Everything feels so much more cohesive now than it ever did before. One final thing I do want to note here, because this is one of the few shows that Disney has brought back on property since the pandemic, but honestly, to tell you the truth, I did not notice it upon first watching that the cast was not as big as it once was. Now, don't get me wrong. It is slightly noticeable. You do realize that they don't have as many characters in certain scenes as they used to, but compared to Beauty and the Beast live on stage at Hollywood Studios, where there was a point where Belle and Beast were not allowed to touch at all, and even still they're kind of not allowed. It is kind of like a night and day difference. Now again, I don't know if that's because the show is union and the other one isn't. If anybody knows about that, put in the comments down below, but yeah, it is very noticeable in Beauty and the Beast. Meanwhile, in a show like Festival of the Lion King or, this, it's not noticeable at all, and I would love to know why that is. Like, if you want to fix Beauty and the Beast right now, get whatever choreographer is doing Finding Nemo and Lion King, and you might actually be able to salvage that show. So yeah, overall, I am very impressed, and I honestly have to commend Disney on this one. They knew what they were doing. This wasn't a rush or a hack job. And again, while I do think the full show looking like this would be the best outcome, again, you gotta give the Imagineers their due when they do something correct. And I think they knocked it out of the park. So yeah, those were my quick thoughts on Finding Nemo, the Big Blue and Beyond, as I just watched it. Leave a comment down below if you watched the show. Let me know what you think about it. And until tomorrow, guys, gals, and my fellow VEDS-ies, I will see you tomorrow.